like whenever somebody asks me, especially young kids, like ask me, I want to be an actor. What should I do? I mean, apart from, whatever the conversation is leading, I always say, and remember that it's incredibly important what you say no to when you're a kid and when you're growing up and when you're studying. It's as important as what you say yes to or what you exceed. Like there's a very positive abnegation there of doing things that don't necessarily have a kind of a consequence that our system or our, I don't know, culturally, you would be expected to say like, okay, this leads to nothing. But it's like, man, no, it's good to listen. It requires a very fine art. But if I wouldn't have said no to many things, I think Amores Perros wouldn't have been my first film.
I'm so happy to be back on this stage. I have a lot of wonderful memories of being in this room with you. My name is Stacey Wilson Hunt, and I'm going to waste no time in bringing to the stage Gael García Bernal.
Thank you so much.
There's a lot of amor for you in this room. And I have to say, in the 5 minutes I've known him, he's just as lovely as you might imagine. So we are in for such a treat, and we're so, so honored. And I'm such an enormous fan. Get ready for a lot of gushing, so just prepare yourself. Yes. So congratulations, firstly, on Cassandro, which I love. Your performance is just wonderful.
Thank you.
It is so full of joy. That's the word that comes up for me watching that movie. It's just very joyful. But we have much to discuss before that. So let's put Cassandra on the back burner for now. And let's start with the fact that you were born in Guadalajara. Yes. Viva Mexico. And you were born into a family of artists. And I'd love to know a little bit more about your mother and your father, and also your stepfather, who I know has been a huge presence in your life too. So tell me what your childhood was like.
Excellent. Yes. Well, thank you for having me here. I mean, it's so nice to be able to talk about Cassandro and to be able to be here back again. Did you miss doing interviews during the strike? I miss doing this kind of I miss doing like closing the circle in a way with the film. Like there was a moment where it was like, wow, we're never going to have a premiere with all the team of
because
the film.
The film premiered at Sundance, and then we sort of heard a little bit about it, and then there was kind of silencio since then, and then now we're back talking about it.
Exactly. So it feels very nice to be here and to be able to close the circle and and to open a new one, because then, I mean, that's what always happens. No, the films kind of become a world of their own, and you belong to them rather than the film belonging to you, and it becomes,
it's on Amazon,
an animal of its own.
Worldwide audience too, which is incredible.
Amazon, yes. So growing up,
back to growing up.
Yes, I was born in Guadalajara from a father from Michoacán and from a mother of Sinaloa, and so I mentioned that because my parents were the ones that kind of broke the constant. Because they came from a very, very rural family, from very small towns, and they were the ones that kind of emancipated. They were the ones that kind of said like, I'm gonna be an actor, no?
That's probably pretty revolutionary to leave that country environment and say, I'm gonna be an artist.
I think for everyone in that time in the world, it was revolutionary. I mean, it was complicated because obviously for my father it was different, but for my mother, you can imagine how difficult it was. You can imagine the words that were said to her as she was walking out the house, no? Like,
did her family shun her when she left?
Well, not the family, but more the father, kind of. Yeah.
Very traditional.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy. Very even outdated for those days, but in the whole world was like that. It was complicated, especially for women. And so I grew up in this kind of very... from this generation of parents that kind of tried to experience their freedom. And obviously, therefore, I grew up in a very loving environment, very, very loving, very close, very tender, very interesting, because also I was brought up I became very contestatory with anything that my parents would say. I was like, so I mean, just to say a clear example, I didn't want to be an actor, you know, like.
So you had the reverse. Your parents wanted you to be one, and then you said no.
No, my parents didn't want. They were like, "You can be anything," and I was like, "But not an actor." And they were like, "Yeah, you can."
Not because they were actors,
you
and
can
you
do
didn't want to
whatever you want, but not an actor. I would always mention that, you know, like it was like, not an actor. And I think it has to do because I was born into that kind of. They were also theater actors, and that is a big difference, no? And especially in those days, and they were very, you know, very comprometidos, engaged theater actors, you know, and committed to the university theater and the kind of and to be
it's
a real
tough
actor,
life too. It's very little money. It's hard to survive as a
to be
theater
an actor in those days. There was this kind of strange. I don't know why there was this kind of like aura of. If you want to be a good actor, you have to starve. Right. You know, like you have
suffering,
to really
the
starve.
suffering.
Yes. To be a good actor, I think it's broken a little bit. It's not as heavy as before, because before anyone that did anything that got them paid was like immediately a sellout. Right. Like immediately. And so, but it was wonderful because I was brought into this kind of carnival gypsy family, and growing up with a bunch of actors, you know, that were in the kind of the same, you know, the same thing of like, okay, it's fine to be poor now, but later would not be good to be suffering so much with money and stuff. And so I grew up with all this, you know, thinking that actors were the most intelligent people on earth because the way they spoke about everything, and later I realized that they spoke about stuff they didn't know, but they speak about it with such, you know.
But they're good actors, though. They're performers.
Engaging way, yeah, in such an engaging way, but we don't have to dismiss it so much because there's a lot in that also, you know, a lot in that kind of like how you tell it, no, how you talk about things. And so they would talk about politics and everything, and I would be like, wow, they're really erudite and they know about everything, which maybe they know, but not so academically, you know, not so structured. And
so I have to ask, because this is bringing up a memory for me. So 4 years ago on this stage, I was talking to Laura Dern, and she also comes from an acting family, and her parents were very politically active, very similar story to yours. And you also have something in common with her, because she said her first role was playing Mary, and your first role was Jesus. So, which I imagine Mexico is the pinnacle of an actor's career, right? To play Jesus. Tell me about getting that role and where you played Jesus.
Oh, yeah, really? Yeah. Well, wow. Well, Laura and I should do an improv one day. Like we should just. We know what we're doing, no? Like we know. No, there was this Grotowskian nativity, and it was full of you know, it was envisioned or kind of put together by Grotowski in one of his many travels throughout Latin America, and they made this. It was like 140 actors or something. It was a massive kind of like event, no? And it was at the Lago de Chapultepec in Mexico, the lake of Chapultepec there, and in Mexico City, and it was a huge kind of like. I mean, I don't remember anything. This is what they told me, okay? Because I was.
You were how old?
I was a baby. Okay. I don't know, like 1.5 or something, and of course I played Jesus. I was the baby, yeah. Like, I mean, I was the baby, like maybe each Tuesday because there were many babies, and so
you had to go home and sleep at some point and eat, right?
Yeah. They would bring in other babies to play it, and I only have a picture of me on top of because the whole point was that Jesus appeared all of a sudden and didn't appear like a little boy, no? Sorry, like a little, you know, like a little. Appeared on top of a donkey, and being pulled a donkey, and somebody shouted, "This is how the great are born, you know, así nacen los grandes." And it was a big kind of roar, and in comes a little boy on top of a donkey, and with a oh my God, how do you say the biberon? No. Baby bottle, the bottle, yes, a bottle, and it's like like that, you know, and I mean, how cool is that, no? To be in a donkey, like with a baby bottle, and everyone just shouting, it's the best. So yeah, that's what they tell me. I have photos, so it's not far from the truth, I guess. But yeah, that was my first role.
It's an auspicious beginning, for sure.
Yeah.
We will be talking more about Diego later, but I wanted to know your good friend Diego Luna. When did you first meet him, and what do you most remember about the first time you met?
Okay, so again, I don't remember exactly the day we met because I think he was like he was in the crib and no, in the stroller, and he was like he was a little amoeba, and I'm like almost a year older than him, and so when he was there, I think what they tell me is that I put my hand in his mouth like, and he was like, I didn't know what to do. So since then, it got really well established, like who has, who's got the respect, like just let's start things like this.
That intimacy would serve you very well later on, and we will talk about Y tu mamá también a little bit. So by the early 90s, you were actually a fairly famous actor. I kind of think were you sort of like the Michael J. Fox of Mexico? You were a very famous child actor in Mexico, and you were on a number of telenovelas, including Teresa.
Actually, that's a IMDb error,
Really? You weren't on Teresa?
I was never in that one, no.
No. Your mom was, though.
My mom was.
Okay, yes. Maybe that's why they were like, the algorithm was off. Okay, maybe. So scratch that. You were not in Teresa.
But there was one that I was definitely.
Yes, I know. The one with the kiss.
Yeah.
Yes. El abuelo y yo. And I'm not going to belabor this because you've been made fun of so much for this moment, but you did have a very meaningful kiss on screen as Danielle when you were 11. And how did that change your life? Because a lot of kids kissing another girl on screen at age 11, that's a lot to cope with, sort of the aftermath. How did your life change after that?
Yeah.
Like, did you get made fun of, or were people sort of like, hey, good for you?
Again, I mean, I guess this kind of, it's really, I mean, it's great that here we are talking between actors, because it's like, it really, like, I'm really, really proud of being an actor and being born in an actor's family, because there were many things that I was completely exempt, growing up. And for that, I can mention, 1,000 anecdotes, but one in particular, there was an important family member had passed away, and we were rushing towards the town where my father is from. And we were running, and the whole town was kind of, he's from a town in Tierra Caliente, which is between Guerrero and Michoacán. It's very hot, as the word says. So they were burying our family member, and we were rushing towards it, and the whole town was kind of getting out, it was coming out, and they were like, run, they were like, yeah, they're burying him, like, keep running. And so we got out of the car, we ran, and that moment that you run and accelerate, that I'm running with my father, which is one of the best feelings ever. But at the same time, we're all crying, and my father is crying, and I'm crying because my father is crying. And I tell him, Dad, we're not dressed properly. We're not dressed properly for this occasion, because we had just woken up and run from Mexico City to and he says, don't worry, Gael, don't worry. We're actors. We're actors. We're exempt. We can't do anything.
So you got to do whatever you wanted all the time. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's the thing of, like, they don't hold you to that kind of standard of having to be, like, you can dress whatever way.
Given a freedom to just be a little, not always following the rules.
Exactly. So that is, and I think that's one of the best advices I ever got in my life, because it really kind of, transcribed the way that I was growing up every time, so giving a kiss in a soap opera, everyone thought it was a big deal. I was like, I don't know. Me and the other actress, we were like completely easy with it in a way. And maybe it was also a generational thing. I don't know, but we weren't so conscious about it. Like, it wasn't that complicated or that yeah, the only thing is that for Mexico in those days, it was like, what, in like a kid's soap opera, there's gonna be a kiss? What? That sounded like crazy. Might sound crazy now also. But before it was like, wow, like they're breaking the rules, like they're doing something really, yeah, but it was a very nice thing to do, and very good actors working there, and very loving environment. So it was not complicated at all. I wasn't made fun of that. No, actually.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm very glad to hear that. And actually, I spoke to Salma Hayek on this stage about 5 or 6 years ago. She's amazing, as you know.
Yeah.
And we talked about telenovelas and the wonderful training that they offer actors. What did you learn working in those formats of television?
Yeah, fortunately, I only did one, and yeah. And I had my share.
You were
as well.
done, okay.
Yeah. Because then what you mentioned was the uncomfortable bit, becoming famous, you know, and now obviously I didn't. I guess nobody is ever ready for that, or especially if you're not looking for it, then it comes in a strange kind of grotesque shape. And it takes forever to kind of, not forever, but it takes a while to kind of get used to kind of like, what is this? Now all of a sudden, you know, like also the etymology is kind of strange, because it's like you're famous, like you were like, I mean, you are either in good health or bad health. You are in the, you know, but it's not something that you are. It's something that people see you as.
You didn't choose that.
I wake up and I'm not famous, you know, like, but all of a sudden outside people tell me I am, and and it was like, and growing up as a kid, fortunately there was no Instagram back then, because I can't imagine how horrible it must have been. But I had a hard time doing that, because there was things I enjoyed a lot about, the thing I enjoy most about being an actor is also like observing and getting into places that normally I wouldn't go, and to travel and to see, you know, and to see from this, you know, from this median perspective, you know, not from the front row of things, you know, but to see and to engage and to be and to kind of arrive and get, you know, engage with people without this kind of thing that makes you have a very stylized version of social interaction, which is like you already have to have a filter, you know, and come on, like you're a kid, so you don't have you don't know, you know, and so I fortunately, I think growing up in a very loving environment, it was very easy for me to make the decision whilst making the soap opera. I was like, okay, this is the last one. Yeah, this is the last one, and I'm fine with it. Like, I have no problem.
That's amazing to have that kind of authority as a young person and say, I'm done with this.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. That was strange and good. And I think that's the only, like, whenever somebody asks me, especially young kids, you know, like ask me, I want to be an actor. What should I do? You know, I mean, apart from, you know, whatever the conversation is leading, I always say, and remember that it's incredibly important what you say no to. When you're a kid and when you're growing up and when you're studying, it's as important as what you say yes to or what you accede. You know, like there's a very positive abnegation there of doing things that don't necessarily have a kind of a consequence that our system or our, I don't know, culturally you would be expected to say like, okay, this leads to nothing. But it's like, man, no, it's good to listen to it. It requires a very fine art. I mean, obviously it's very difficult to always listen to that little kind of sort of. It's not even an instinct. I don't know what it is. It's like a soul kind of thing, you know. Like, but it's important to say no to things. And I think maybe I'm jumping forward here. But if I wouldn't,
this is your day. You can do whatever you want.
But if I wouldn't have said no to many things, I think Amores Perros wouldn't have been my first film. Like, Amores Perros ended up being the first film I ever participated in because I had already said no to many things and to not continue to work as a kid actor. I wanted to study. I wanted to do other things. And then Amores Perros came. But that's another story.
Well, that actually happens to be my next question. Okay. So that was perfect timing.
Okay.
And we're so glad you decided to be an actor, by the way.
Thank you.
And you've brought so much artistry to the job. So you made the right choice.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
So Amores Perros, the year 2000, obviously the first movie I saw you in, because that was your first film, working with Alejandro. And I always want to credit the writers because they are so often forgotten, Guillermo Arriaga, and you played Octavio. Amazing story. I rewatched it this week and wow, I'd forgotten. It's so brutal. It's a really, really brutal, bloody movie and just beautiful. So the casting process, did you know Alejandro before? And this was his first feature as well. Had you met in the film scene in Mexico, or was this a sort of clean audition and you kind of walked in the room? How did that work?
So after saying no to this soap opera, it was complicated because I was being called a lot to work and stuff. And I was like, no, take some time to wonder what to do. And fortunately, I started to little by little go back to I didn't want to be an actor really, and I know it sounds.
You keep saying that.
I didn't want to be an actor.
What did you want to be?
I wanted many things.
You studied philosophy, right?
I started to study.
Did you want to be a
philosophy.
professor? I could see you teaching.
Yeah. I thank you. Yes.
Maybe it's the sweater vest, but you look very professorial today.
And exactly.
I love professors. That's a compliment. It's a compliment.
Thank you. Well, but I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a rural pediatrician. That was my thing, my calling. Like I wanted to go and I know it sounds like weird. But yes, because my grandfather was a rural pediatrician, so it was like I wanted to do that. I wanted to. Then I wanted to be obviously a football player for a while. Also, like even baseball as well. I don't know why. I was like because the future was. I knew that I was okay. I was good, but not like brilliant. So it was like this little future. It was like not gonna be a kind of a. And then anthropology, sociology, and it was at a moment heading towards the getting the exams for the admission at the UNAM, at the National Autonomous University in Mexico. It's a free university. It's a free public, huge university, very good one. And I was gonna do the exam there, and a friend of mine in the back in the line says, I had to choose which faculty I wanted to go to in order to get the exam, the admission exam, no? And this friend tells me, medicine, man, no. No, because if after 3 years you want to step out, you have to start all over again, and it's like a big And I was like, I know, but medicine is my yes, And really, it was like one person before that I said, okay, philosophy, okay. And so they asked me which one, and I said the Faculty of Philosophy. So I did the exam there, and I started to study there. But before that, I was doing plays as well. Again, this plays of in the National Institute, La Compañía Nacional de Teatro, like the National Company of Theater, or also in little small theater groups or small. I was doing that because I was enjoying a lot. I was still an actor in terms of my life, was still like an actor. I got along.
It sounds like you were conflicted and you thought that maybe acting wasn't enough. Like you wanted to do more with your time in your life.
Part of it was that. Part of it was the fact that I had never seen it as a complicated. Because that came after. I never saw it. When I started to study theater, I started to realize, oh my God, this is really complicated. And this is really difficult to do it good. And I'm not so good as I thought I was. I'm not it's not, maybe things come naturally, but it's not. I really have to open the scope, and so I'm a real kind of product of the academia as well in that sense, because they destructed me, they kind of like, I was completely turned down, and then I started to little by little by myself and with the help of, like a bit like astrology, it's like, it doesn't tell you the future, but what you, so I was like, okay. And then at the end of acting school, I was like very strong. I felt very ready.
So you felt more legitimate, I guess, like legitimate, as you trained.
And with many tools. I think it went beyond legitimacy. It became more like, okay, now I know this craft is very complex. Is very complicated. I can do many things. I can try them out. So I came out like completely, like full of strength and curiosity, and that's the best way to get out of school, no? I mean, it's the best. That's why it's important not to work, I guess, also, which I didn't do because but I did Amores Perros. I did whilst in drama school. But
did you have to audition?
I know I was called directly by Alejandro because he had seen me in a play. I had done a little ad that he was doing this crazy ads because Alejandro was a DJ before, and he used to do this ads for his radio station WFM. Este es WFM 96.9. And I had done a little ad there, participate. He called a lot of actors, and the people from the theater. And according to what he said, at that moment I saw him and I was like, I'm going to make my first film with him, like he said that. I don't know. As a director, you say many things that it's not.
They're actors too sometimes,
exactly,
right? They know exactly what they need to say. What were your first thoughts when you read that script? It's probably, and I haven't read the script myself, but I imagine it's quite dense. It's extremely layered, a lot of time jumps. What did it feel like to you as an actor to think, wow, I'm going to have to do this?
Yeah, I'm going to be very honest because I was 19 and I was in drama school and I started to read it and I was like, oh, my part is like, it's only 1/3 of the film. Like I don't know. Like I was, and it was a very long script, of course, like it was a
3-hour movie. Yeah.
But it was even like a 200-page script or something, and it was like, wow, like a very kind of, convolvulated and story and things got together. So I got quite lost, I must say. It's the first script I've ever read as a film, like for a film script. So I was like, yeah, it sounds great. Yeah, let's do it. And I sent a tape to Alejandro, and we organized when to do it, and I could only do it in the holidays. So they figured out how to put my part in the holidays. Yeah.
And how did your life change after that movie came out? Did people see you as, oh, he's grown up, he's trained, he's a mature actor now?
Well, I before it came out, I was called also to do it Mamá También because Alfonso Cuarón saw the cut of Amores Perros and called me to
Did you know Alfonso before?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, I had seen his film Solo con tu pareja. Yeah, I had seen that film and yeah, amazing. And he had also done a few films in the United States. And so I don't know. When Amores Perros came out, it was in Cannes, and I must say that when I did Amores Perros, I had no idea where this film was gonna take us. I mean, like in those days, I know it's difficult to. I mean, maybe some of you guys experienced it also, but it's very difficult to translate the cosmovision in those days. There were only 6 films done that year in Mexico. And it was a country that it had done. The
business had really taken a hurt.
Or 200 films a year or something, and now it was only 6. Making a film was a complete and utter kind of like a delicacy. And the films, where would they come out? Once in a cinematheque, and you had to watch out and remind the producer, can you call me, when the film comes out, and so that I can invite.
So for you to go to Cannes was a huge
my family
global
and everything.
Unveiling for the movie.
Yeah, but I still I had no idea at that point, like, of everything that happened afterwards, because it came out also in Cannes at the Semaine de la Critique, which is it's like the smallest section in Cannes. Right. And because back in those days, again, these films wouldn't get to the official selection, competition. Actually, Amores Perros changed a lot, the map in that sense.
It's huge.
So it was kind of later, the film just galloped around the world, and it came at the right time also. Like there was an absence of new geography, new language, new color, new actors, new technicians. Most of us, it was our first film. Rodrigo Prieto, I think, the cinematographer, it was his his second or third film. So he hadn't done many things. Alejandro's was his first film. Many of us, it was our first film.
It felt like what Reservoir Dogs was for us with Quentin. It felt like that sort of like, wow, I have never seen this before.
Kind of.
Yeah. Similar, obviously, tone and
yeah. And
and
what's fantastic is that nowadays, I mean, it's a film that I can say like, whoever studies cinema has to see that film at a certain point.
Stunning. It's really stunning.
It's like so it was amazing. I mean, it was incredible, and yeah, my life changed after that screening. Yeah, after that screening, my life changed because before it was still having a kind of a logic, before I still kind of had it in control.
Right.
And then out of that screening, everything just went crazy, like crazy. All of a sudden, they were calling me from different parts of the world. Representation also, which I had never, an agent. What?
Right.
What for?
But you want to avoid getting those as long as you can, though, right?
Good.
So let's talk about Y Tu Mamá. Now, was Diego in the mix as well from the beginning? Did Alfonso want the two of you from the start, or was it an audition process?
No. Okay. Diego got the hard treatment. Yeah,
he had to read. He had to audition.
Yeah, he had to audition, and the thing is that Diego at that point, contrary to me, Diego, because of another kind of pathway, Diego was working a lot in television, and kind of like just doing a lot of things. So Alfonso was a little bit like reluctant, of getting Diego because he was like,
Was he sort of like, oh, he's a TV guy, we don't want him in this movie?
He's kind of like, and the problem for Alfonso came when, and the solution as well, came when he was like, come on, let's cast Diego. He's my friend all my life, and you'll see, we have done this together. We've been preparing, we've done this. So
how preparing were you?
So we just went for it, and Alfonso was like, man, this is like, and really like Alfonso also in a very joyful way, that film, he involved us into the making of the project in such a wonderful, loving way. We worked with him.
I have to ask, how much improv did we see on screen? Because I rewatched it again this week, and it feels so organic, like almost like a documentary. So how much of what we saw was scripted, and how much was you just in the car eating junk food, driving to the beach? I mean, it feels
a lot was improvised, but a lot got into the like was scripted afterwards. After the improvisations that we were playing with.
Okay.
That's what a good director does in a way with rehearsals. I mean, there was like an investigation of finding out what happened and stuff, and many things. I mean, from the very basic things of like. Because it was Carlos Cuarón and Alfonso Cuarón, they wrote the script, and they had a few things that were a bit anachronic, for the time. Like some terms where we're not like, man, we don't say that anymore. Like it's like, and so we helped them kind of like change the
make it more youthful.
Yeah.
Was there anything? I mean, this movie. A word comes to mind when I watch this movie is it's the most hormonal movie I have ever seen in my life. Really, I have never seen a more unadulterated view of horniness and puberty and boys, but without shame. And what I love about the movie is that there's no shame about it, and it feels so real. But were there aspects of that scared you, especially doing this with your close friend? I mean, this is a very big deal that what you guys pulled off. I mean, really. Yeah. Were you afraid?
But scared is maybe not or maybe it's scared. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we were nervous about it, of course. Like, I mean, we're like, man, we're gonna get to kiss, man. Like, okay.
Did you rehearse that?
But we're actors. We're gonna no, because we don't need.
I'm saying rehearse like in the rest of the film too. I mean, you're not going to do it for the first time on camera, are you?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just thinking of your comfort level. That's all I'm thinking about.
Well, actually, I mean, that's the thing, that it's like, it's whenever there's trust and everything, and whenever you play with those kind of things, and everything, it's like, man, I mean, Y Tu Mamá También, it's a film, unfortunately, nowadays, it would be very difficult to do. It would be incredibly complicated. And I don't think for the right reasons, you know. I think for reasons that are beyond like a kind of, I mean, what happens with that film is that you want to come out of that film and you want to go and live, no?
Absolutely.
And have sex. And, you know, and just, you know, and love and kind of like, you know, live something, you know, and live an experience. And it is a film that nowadays would be very complicated to do. And I think also because, you know, whatever we did in that, you know, like, for example, right now, when you mentioned about the rehearsing and everything, it's like, no, we did so much preparation, you know. We had such a propriety of what we were doing. We had the time, we had the freedom, we had the complete kind of knowledge of what was happening, you know, of what we were doing. We're in control of what was going on. It's all about trust, really, and that's one thing that actually now is forgotten. As you might know, as you know, rather, in acting school, that's all you do. It's you train trust. You have to train like how to trust the other person and that other person to trust you, and how we're here for each other, you know, and how we're basically. I think that's the nature, one of the many but basic principles of acting. So many things go unsaid. You don't have to come and say or bring in someone to explain to you, well, this is this and this is that and this is this and this is that, and you're like, man, but we trust each other, like, and we know where this is. That's why it's so delicate when the trust is broken. It's like, whoa, it's very difficult to get it back. No, it's get it back, and it's impossible. Rather, I mean, sometimes, most of the time, it's kind of like, it's almost like a golden thread that kind of gets broken. No. So there is a little bit of that kind of piloting a plane kind of situation of, you have to trust the person that is piloting the plane.
And to your point earlier about saying no, if you don't feel that trust and there's something off and you don't trust the director, you have to say no. Or if there's something, the feeling that you're getting that you're not going to have that trust on set.
But that's the moment. And also you have to say no whenever there's like somebody's telling you, I'll show you how to trust. Because that's also important, you know, when there's like a lawyer that comes and tells you like, this is how trust works. It's like, man, you like, trust is without, God doesn't go writing, you know, like it doesn't involve a writing process. It's like more a kind of like, it's the nature of what we do in a way. So I love that. I mean, that film is like, man, it's so free, so wonderful, and really, I'm really glad to be in because for so many people that have told me, man, I decided to be an actor. I decided to be this. I decided to go and travel. I decided to drop everything and just escape after watching that film. That was amazing. It was incredible. It was like a film that kind of made a lot of people just go for it, you know, and just really enjoy it. And yeah, I'm really glad about that movie. Very much.
Yes, we are too.
Yeah.
One question: the characters you and Diego play are very competitive, and obviously that's the age. You know, there's a lot of competition. Mm-hmm. Have the two of you managed competition between your careers over the years? I know it's very hard to watch. Some people have success, some people don't. I haven't worked in a while. He's getting this. Have there been moments like that between you? And if there are, do you talk about them?
No, surprisingly, we're so lucky because we never had a problem. You know, working wise, ever. Actually, he's the person that I can say completely without any, any restraints. I can tell him exactly what, and we always look for each other for our feedback on whatever project we do, you know, and we give each other feedback, and I must say it's never even hard feedback, you know, because it's what it is. It's proper feedback from somebody that loves you. That there might be a competition aspect in the most positive sense of like, I want to do it good for you, you know, so that you tell me that it's good, you know, like that kind of
like you want to impress him because you care about him.
Impressing, right. Exactly. Yes, it's more about that. Yeah, it's like I want to impress him, you know, and also like whenever we we also take opportunities when we project, to each other, like, hey, in that part, did you do this? Da, 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 da. And he's like, yes. Oh man, I saw it because it happens to me as well. Like da, da, da. So we learn a lot. And so that's always been a really good, really incredible, kind of joyful relationship. It's really strange because then afterwards I found that there's people that,
it's not very common in Hollywood.
It's not very common. Yeah. No, and also like no, it's very uncommon to have a strong friendship that also works really well in the professional sense. No, yeah. And actually, I must say that in times, like friendships sometimes have a little rest, and they kind of become something, and whenever that has happened with me and Diego, that kind of like for geographical reasons, we haven't seen each other for a while or spoken a lot constantly, and that we've always, on the professional thing, always been incredibly, like close, close so and everything. And fortunately, right now, for example, we see each other a lot.
Right. You're both very busy now.
Right now, yes, we see each other, and we've been working together. So yeah, we see each other a lot.
And you can always remind him that you put your finger in his mouth when he was a baby. I'm just saying, that's when it all started.
I just look at him.
And just go.
And he just, okay.
He says, okay.
Yes, Gael.
Okay, on to a very different movie, Motorcycle Diaries, 2004, one of my favorites as well. Yes. Walter Salles.
Okay, that one got
written by Jose Rivera and Alberto Granado. And you, of course, played Che, Ernesto back then. So I read that Walter, the director, wanted to cast you after seeing Amores Perros. And I was wondering, what do you remember about your first conversations with him about what his vision was for telling this very specific part of Che's life? And it was a part of his life I wasn't aware of, which is so wonderful. Yeah. But tell me about your first conversation with Walter.
Well, I don't know if you guys know Walter Salles and know how he sounds or how he looks like. He's possibly one of the best looking directors ever.
He's Brazilian, right?
He's Brazilian, yes. And he's like, so I was like, wow, this most beautiful man on earth is coming to tell me like, I want to be in this movie about Ernesto Guevara. Yeah, of course, man, like, of course. But also he had done a film, Estación Central do Brasil, this central station, and it's a wonderful movie. And so he was the one, and he's an incredible politician as well. He's very good at kind of putting people together.
He's from a big family, a prominent family too.
Yes, as well. But he's very good at putting people together. And of course, this project needed the like Ernesto Guevara would sign off el concurso de mis modestos esfuerzos. They needed the contest of my modest efforts. Of everyone's modest efforts in order to be able to achieve this, because it tells the story of our continent in a way at a certain point in time, in 58, 59. So and with these very modern characters that are trying to find out what America is about, and so we also as well sort of portrayed our journey as well, when we with much more with Alberto Granado telling us before giving us his blessing to do this movie. He said, guys, just use your own voice, just tell it with your voice, because you guys know so much more about the world than we used to do back then. You guys have much more freedom in order to be able to observe and to look and to investigate so just use your own voice, really, really go for it. And the film became a kind of a film within the film. No, it's what happened before, but also we're contrasting with what happens now. And at that point, it was a very complicated moment because Argentina has sounds resonant. Had a corralito, and a big political kind of debacle economically. But then Chile was also a little bit on the rise economically compared to the journey that Ernesto and Alberto had done. And then we went to Bolivia and to Peru, and it was incredible to be there and to do improvisations as well with many people. No, it's possibly, I remember Rodrigo de la Serna, who's a fantastic actor, the one that plays Alberto Granado, and we share so much fluids because we were, hugging each other in the motorcycle for like 6 months, So,
and a lot of terrible weather too.
Lot of
logistically, I can't imagine how hard it was to make this movie.
Yes, it was complicated. Yeah. It was complicated, but Rodrigo de la Serna said, and this is kind of daunting when you hear this, no? He said, "This is the best experience I'm ever gonna have in a film." And we were like, "Man, oh, come on. Like, there's many to come, like, da, 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 da." But now I can say, without any shame, that Rodrigo was right. It is the best experience I've ever had in a film because it really centered a point of like, films were done very different afterwards. We shot it in 16 millimeters, very free, very easygoing. There were no cameras on cell phones, and that changed a lot in the interaction, social interaction, between everyone that was there, and we could play with the film. We could engage with it. We could like kind of have a constant, like the set was everything. It wasn't just the set that was built. It was wherever we wanted to go. And I remember that film with it's the best experience I've ever had.
I see so much of you in Ernesto's. Yeah. I mean, just everything you were talking about. That's his whole journey. Yes, he's studying medicine, but he feels so drawn to telling the story of all these rural people who are being displaced. Like all the things you were struggling with. That must have felt pretty amazing.
Yes,
to be seeing your own story played out like that.
Like, fortunately, like that's what acting also does. Is like all of a sudden you get a chance to play someone that I wanted to be. I wanted to be that guy that studies medicine and travels around and hopefully finds a way of transcending and helping people, and I wanted to do that, and it was the best. It was really incredible. But one of the things that also Rodrigo de la Serna mentioned about why this was the best experience is because all of a sudden, and this is perhaps the best thing I can tell my home was bigger. My home was the whole continent, I became from every part of America, it's like it is the best feeling because I still feel it now. Whenever I go to any country, I'm like, I'm from here also. Yeah, I'm from this place. Yes.
I wish more of us had that feeling when we traveled around to feel connected. It's really this movie. If you haven't seen this movie recently, it feels like an elixir. It feels very beautiful. So I have to play a little bit of a favorite with this next one, which is my favorite performance of yours, Bad Education, La Mala Educación, the Almodovar experience, Angel, your character. So I heard Pedro's biggest concern with you was your ability to do a Spanish accent. That was one of his concerns. How did you allay his fears that you could do this role? Because I thought you sounded spectacular. But tell me about the training. And you said backstage that you don't like doing that accent. It's challenging for you.
Oh, so tell me. I said that, backstage, indoors.
Well, it's not your favorite. You found it challenging. So tell me about how you got over that hurdle.
No. I mean, I really love doing that accent, really. No, really. I like it because it's such a... I can do it. I mean, depends because also there's many accents in Spain, and as there is in any part of Latin America, like many accents. And this one had to be an accent from Valencia in the 70s. No,
it's very specific. Right.
Yeah, specific and kind of, but it's a great kind of costume to get into because once you get a hang of it, wow, like you got the character. Like the musicality is there and everything becomes that, and so you're never wrong in a way, and so no, I enjoyed like the whole playing that kind of thing, like playing that kind of, but obviously had to, what I think is difficult is more the cultural perspective that exists on that. Because obviously now we're talking, I mean, I don't want to go too much into it, but it's like, it is Spain sees more or less Latin America, still as the colony kind of like thing, and so whenever you do an accent there, it's like they call it let's clean your accent, as if inside like me there's a Spanish person that like
I lived in Spain in college, and I learned Spanish in high school from a Mexican teacher. And my Spanish señora, with whom I lived, was quick to tell me that I hadn't learned the proper Spanish. So I experienced that very early on, and it was very uncomfortable because my whole experience was informed through Mexico. Yeah. So I understand very much.
But it's okay. We're the majority, so we don't mind. So it's fine. Yeah. It's okay.
That is very true. Obviously you got the role, and this film is very hard to describe because the story is so large. This could be like its own series. But how would you describe working with Pedro? If you can even just encapsulate being on set, how does he make you feel as an artist, and how is it different from working with Alejandro and Walter?
Well, very, very different, definitely, because Pedro had every director, but Pedro had a very specific journey, into making his films. I mean, he grew up in those very, hardcore
the Franco
Catholic
years.
schools, and during the dictatorship of Franco, and how it is. I mean, it must have been really complicated to be in that destape, no? To be in La Movida in Spain, and all of that. And it must have been very difficult to start to get a language into, or try to get the grammar of making films. And what he did immediately was starting to do a thing that kind of like was a heightened version of melodrama, no? And all of a sudden, wow, like something was interesting. And we weren't used to seeing many characters that he put in his films, like transsexual characters, or transvestite characters, or
or just gay characters in general,
or just
in Spanish movies.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, it was very strange to see them in Spanish. Also, in other languages, also not French, because the French have always been able to be one step ahead in that sense, but in Spanish it was like, wow, we haven't seen that, we haven't seen that, and with such kind of like also ease and humor, no?
And one thing Pedro's talked about is how unapologetically queer his characters are. We never see them suffering. We never see them having conflict about who they are, which I think is just magical. I don't recall ever seeing that from storytelling from Spain specifically, because you would think there'd be this sort of angst about the Catholicism, and none of the characters ever feel angst about who they are, which I think is really great. And the way he's described the purposefulness of how he's written those characters. And your character in that film too is very similar. He's not apologizing for who he is.
No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, no, and he's but it was going into a world where it was very different from all the experiences I had. And I think I had afterwards, because Pedro is very into like it is about inside, all the other films were about and Pedro, like La Mala Educación, as you can see, I mean, the film is very much about like what goes on inside, no? And so it was a very different process. It was hard, it was difficult, it was complicated, but yeah, I mean, yeah. It was nice, yeah.
Well, if you haven't seen it, you guys have a lot of stuff to watch when you get home tonight. So jumping ahead, again, I wish we had 20 hours for this conversation, but we're going to go to 2014, Mozart in the Jungle. Yes. Your Golden Globe winning role is Rodrigo. Of course, the show is created by Roman Coppola, Jason Schwartzman, Alex Timbers, and Paul Weitz. Paul Weitz is one of the nicest people you could ever hope to work with. And in fact, I emailed him this week to ask him if he had any backstory to talk about today. And he said, quote, I know. This is the secret research. He said, quote, I knew how great Gael would be. It became apparent from the first conversation that he would also help create the show with us. And he talked about Rodrigo as being a shaman, which I thought was really interesting. And I've rewatched the pilot the other day, and that really comes through, is that Rodrigo sees himself almost like a healer. So tell me about approaching that. And also there's the Gustavo Dudamel sort of shades of familiarity as well. But how did you want to play it where it wasn't a Gustavo sort of replica? So tell me about creating that character.
No, I mean, I mean, Mozart in the Jungle and Rodrigo de Souza are Mozart in the Jungle is a concept, and Rodrigo de Souza is a person that I really miss. Because we haven't done, we only got to do, only sounds 4 seasons, and we wanted to do a 5th one, but then we didn't, I don't know what the term is, like it didn't go through the next thing.
It happens.
And I miss that character a lot, because we built it. We were kind of finding it as well. I guess the pilot was for that also, to find it. And the good thing about a series, and especially a comedy series, is that you never find it immediately. You have to try it out. You have to kind of give it a go, and then okay. So then it's like it starts to get better and better. And and on many levels, no, especially the conducting an orchestra. The first season I was scared as hell.
So how did you train for it? It's so interesting. Now we've had Tar, we've had Maestro since this show, but I had never seen a show or a film about a conductor before. So how did you train? Did you sit in? Were you familiar with this world at all?
No. Okay. I love music. I love music, but I never studied. And I, thanks to this project, I started to study. I did a harmony course, but that was after we were shooting. Already shooting, because I started to get really deep into it, and I just learned with. There was a great coach that helped me. During this, but also fortunate enough to have Gustavo Dudamel or Alondra de la Parra or a few other conductors that are friends that I would call and say like, hey, this is happening, or this or that, and they would help me out with it. But also there's YouTube.
I've heard of that. Tell me more.
Yes. You type, and it's and what happens there is that. I don't know why the music world, it's so full, like all the library of great recordings from ever. I think ever since this performances were recorded, they're there in YouTube, and you can find them. So you can find, you can even see Shostakovich conducting. And you can see also Karajan, and you can see Muti, and you can see Bernstein, of course. Many that are like there, and wow, man, incredible, like these conductors, and the new ones as well, which are great, and it was really nice to kind of like take from everyone and build my own kind of thing. But that trust or that confidence I started to gain. I started to play with it and started to gain and started to develop this character that all of a sudden became the person I want to be. This is the person I want to be in life. I want to be a genius. Who doesn't? Who doesn't want to be a genius? No, like I want to be a genius, and also I want to be with no filter. I want to be able to say what I think.
That is the dream. That is the dream.
Just completely. And that's what Rodrigo does, So whenever we were shooting, it was like my therapy for like 3 months. Because I would just say everything, like without a shame, without obviously, it's a fiction, and Rodrigo doesn't have to live up to the consequences of his actions and what he says, and everything. But I really miss that kind of therapy of being able to play this guy that was able to do whatever and say whatever and also be good at everything. So I want to be that person. Who wouldn't?
Well, we can always hope for a reboot. Shows are never dead. They keep coming back, and movies keep coming back. So we'll see. But I love that show too. I think it was very special, and just sort of the insidery piece of the music world. These are people who like to have a lot of sex. I never thought about musicians as being sort of. It's an amazingly rich world. I thought you really brought it to life. So on to something very different, Coco, 2017, a movie I will listen to that we all love this movie. It's what a sweet just hug. This movie feels like a hug. Directors Lee Unkrich, Adrian Molina, and writers Lee Unkrich, Jason Katz, and Matthew Aldrich, and you of course played Hector. Was this your first time doing a voice character? Yeah, what was that experience like for you?
Well, it was very strange because it was there's 2,000 something people that work in the film all the time, like they are working
for years and years,
for many years. So I got to the point of like when they were starting to, when they had reached all this huge pathway of investigation and kind of like they had it together. And when they told me about what they wanted to do, the first thing I responded to was, these guys, they really got the Day of the Dead, because the Day of the Dead I think is the best celebration that exists, because you can do whatever you want with it. Also, it's whatever you feel you wanna, whatever way you wanna communicate with the people that are here or here or here or here or here. You know, like it is a kind of it is a wonderful experience, and they really got it, because it was just wonderful that they would place things, you know, in their altar, you know, of the film. I see it as an altar in a way, as a kind of like a whole ornament, you know, of a celebration of this, no? And it's great. It's great because nobody can also own Dia de Muertos, which is fantastic also. Yeah.
What did your kids think about when they saw the movie?
Oh, they love it. They love it. They absolutely love it. I think I cry more. Yeah, because who wouldn't?
It's a very emotional movie. It's very beautiful.
Yeah, it's very emotional, and I think they will cry even more when they get a little bit older.
Yes.
But yeah, it is like it was a great experience, and it was, again, it's a very random, strange kind of approach to it, because I think I recorded for like 20 sessions or something, or I don't know, or maybe more. And you never know what's happening.
And you're alone in a booth. You're not interacting with the actors.
Yeah, no.
Wow.
Wow. So it's all like a little Frankenstein kind of thing. And it all gets together, you know, and stuff. And what's great is that they record you as well. So they capture certain things for the character, you know. And
I saw some of the video. You're very demonstrative in the booth. I mean, it really is as if it's a live action performance, and you can hear it in the voice. That's why these actors you can hear them being physical. But they're not just standing still.
Exactly. Right. And also for animation, you have to go even bigger than if you were doing the most like outdoor musical ever, you know, like even more than that. You have to really go for it full on, because it's there. It's kind of like it was nice. And then the result was amazing. And then just to see what that film has become, and many people that have come to me and said like, Coco.
And they start crying.
Thank you. And I'm like, wow, so many people that did this film, and it was really nice. It was really nice to be able to participate in it. I'm
sure. Well, it was a wonderful offering for us as well. And the last movie before we talk about Cassandro is Old. Have you seen Old? M. Night Shyamalan? This is a curious film, and not because it's M. Night Shyamalan. I love his stuff, but this movie takes a twist. We think it's one thing, and then by the end, it's this sort of sci-fi meditation on living, which of course is a very valuable story to tell. The movie, of course, is Hollywood's worst nightmare. It's about a place where you age every hour. It's very scary, and Botox cannot help you on this beach. What did you most enjoy about the M. Night Shyamalan experience? Did it feel like something you had never experienced before, and in what way?
It was definitely something we had never experienced, because I think for all of us there, because it was shot in 2020 in July 2020.
You were able to go in production during that time? Wow.
So there were a lot of protocols, you know, a lot of kind of isolation protocols, which was wonderful to be isolated on the beach. It was
you
nice.
were sort of all out, mostly outside, which helped, right?
And barefoot. Right. So it's the only film I've ever been barefoot all the time, you know, like, and also in the beach, you know, and with this group of actors, and we were in a bubble, so in a way we couldn't see anyone else. So it was like doing films like in the old days, you know, in that kind of sense of like you create a community, and it was really lovely. It was really a nice experience, and working with great, fantastic actors. Amongst them, I've got to say, because gained a new best friend for life, Vicky Krieps.
Oh, she's wonderful.
Like, we became like, you know, like super close, and I think she's the best actress.
She's amazing.
She's amazing. She's incredible.
What is unique about the way M. Night works with actors? Does he give you a lot of freedom? Because he seems very fastidious, but he also seems like such a dreamer. So what is he like on set?
Well, he's very... what was very interesting is that it's all about cinema in a way. So he lets you know a lot more than other directors do where the camera is and what the camera is doing, in order for you to understand a little bit. And for some of us who have directed, it's wonderful to engage in that conversation, because it's like, okay, and then what are you going to do? Wow, great idea. So it's like...
So you like to have as much information as possible when you're on set?
No. I actually, for example, Pablo Larraín, who's a director I've worked with like 3 times now, in the last film we did called Emma, which is a really funky, weird,
it's crazy.
very good movie. That one, for example, we didn't have a script, and every day there would be like some scenes written out in the night, and we would kind of improv from that because we couldn't learn everything, so it was like, okay, and we could take it from there, and I love not knowing what the hell's going on with a director like that, because it's like, okay, if it's gonna turn out good, something's gonna become interesting, and I know that's how films are made also. Like, actors don't need to know what's happening.
Well, look at Coco. You only knew your performance,
but I think that I learned that the first time I directed, like I properly learned that. I was like, okay, so you can do whatever, like you can do whatever, and really as an actor you don't own the result in a sense, but you have appropriation of the character that you have, but not the result in a sense, and not what you were thinking also, because you never know where the camera is, you never know exactly where the lens is or whatever, so, and the juxtaposition is always plays games, it's a monster in a way, a wonderful monster that comes out. So I really like not knowing, but at the same time, I enjoy getting into those conversations, especially with directors that have a lot of experience, because then it becomes like, okay, like there is.
You're also learning from them too for your next
learning
film.
a lot, and learning heavily, yeah.
And I do want to talk about your directing in a minute, but first I want to get to Cassandra, for which we are here today, and congratulations again. Has everyone seen the movie, Cassandra? Okay. Of course, streaming on Amazon Prime now. Directed by Roger Ross Williams, written by David Teague and Roger Ross Williams, and produced by this gentleman as well. Yes, congratulations. So when considering whom to cast as Saul, Cassandro, Roger Williams said, quote, "I thought of only one person to play this role, and it was Gael." Why do you think he said that?
I don't know. Let's ask him. I don't know.
What do you think it is about your work that he felt was the perfect fit for this character?
Maybe he felt that he knew that because he didn't know, but he felt that I was interested in Lucha Libre, for example. I grew up watching Lucha Libre, and I
was going to say, were you a fan as a kid?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot.
Did you ever consider going into that business? Okay.
No. But I used to play, Lucha Libre with my friends, and also my generation was like got a little bit of the hype of a new kind of like second breath that Lucha Libre had in Mexico in television with great wrestlers. Like Conan, Atlantis, Octagon, Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio was before. Was after. El Rayo de Jalisco, Perro Aguayo. Amazing. El Hijo del Santo was like a little bit before. And obviously Santo was like from my grandparents. But with all that mythology, and with all those toys as well, which I think you're not a Mexican boy or girl if you would never have walk in the middle of the night, going to the bathroom when you have to go to pee, and all of a sudden something like burns your feet, like stings it, and you fall and you look at what it is, and it's a luchador. It's a luchador like that. It's like this, like one of those little toys.
Yes, those toys.
Yes.
The claws.
Yes. So you have to go through that. Growing up as a Mexican, it is standard.
Did the parents get angry when your luchadors are on the floor?
Maybe they did, but I remember it was common also that the luchadores were on the floor, because that's la lucha. It's in the floor, like It's where it happened. So I remember like that feeling like, and it was Blue Demon, like, yeah. So
tell me about your training for this, because it's a very physical role. How long did it take you to train, and what was the most difficult aspect of the training for you?
Oh, I love the first part was very easy because he was eating a lot and doing a lot of exercise, and I enjoy a lot doing, it wasn't so, I had to gain a lot of muscle. So it was like, a lot of.
And what do you eat when you have to gain weight?
Everything.
Everything?
Yeah.
Just more of everything? Okay.
Everything. Yeah. Everything.
I've heard that works. Everything is good.
Yeah, everything is good. Okay. It's a good diet.
Okay.
So I would eat everything and just, do a lot of workout and stuff. But then 2 months before starting to shoot, started to go into a wrestling course with La Triple A, which is one of the biggest organizations in Mexico of Lucha Libre, and they were so kind, they were so amazing, and they were so generous as well, because they do what we do, they perform. I mean, the good thing about Lucha Libre is a sport that actually involves a lot of the performance of the of the spectacle. You have to give a good show, which all sports should do that also. It's not about winning all the time. It's about giving a good spectacle. No,
what's so interesting about specifically wrestling in Mexico is you have this hyper machismo, but then you have all these flamboyant exoticos in the same space, and it's just so wonderful. It's like theater as well, because in the U.S. there have been a few kind of flamboyant wrestlers, but it feels so special in Mexico.
It's different, yes, because here we have to because it is a profound and interesting but very, very complex issue, because when we talk about machismo, we cannot talk about it just generalizing it, because it is it was very different, the term, back in the days of Cassandro, for example. Because also seen from the outside as well, machismo. It's even used the word in Spanish, which could be more like just patriarchy or male kind of, but it is a thing that in the days of Cassandro, the machismo was more. And I'm sorry, it is a very profound conversation that needs. So sorry for the shortcuts that I might do, but I think it had a much more cultural appreciation, in the sense of like machismo was the mariachi and maybe the tough guy, that kind of and now machismo has shifted whenever we talk about it, not on that cultural aspect more, but in its most gruesome and terrible consequences, which is the system of oppression of the patriarchy, and this happens all over the world. Let's be honest. I mean, it's not only a Mexican thing, okay? Because that's something that also gets used very unfortunate, because it's everywhere. It happens everywhere, and now, fortunately, the term has shifted into that, because tell me a sport where openly gay athletes are there. Lucha Libre.
It's changing, but not many.
Lucha Libre. Right. Lucha Libre is...
That's what's so striking about it.
Yeah. And it's like there's very few sports where this happens, and Lucha Libre was one of the main kind of like, the vanguard in that sense, because, and I think there's a reason why also, because so when we were doing Cassandro, we didn't want to do a film about and this we talked to Roger a lot. It's not a film about Cassandro coming out, It's not a film about.
He's very happy with himself.
He's already
settled.
Let's say in those terms, out of the closet.
He's out, right?
For a while. So it's more, like a story of what happens with the duality and everything, mind you. And this is something I just realized recently when I saw it again. I was like, okay, but there is a story about coming out in the film. Do you want to know which one is?
Yes, please tell us.
It's society coming out of the closet, because all of a sudden society is saying, oh, it's okay to support. Yes, because I really supported this Exotico to win, and now I can do it openly. And so yes, like...
Well, it was changing the narrative of, oh no, the Exotico is going to win tonight. And seeing the look on the face of the promoter saying, what? We've never had the Exotico win. And that's what's so fun to see him change it.
There were many Exoticos as well as, Exoticos have existed since the 50s, but they were very fringe characters, and very kind of put down characters. But in the times of Cassandro, together with Pimpinela and Rudy Reina and other Exoticos as well, in their different areas and through different ways, they managed to kind of, like change the perspective, as well as accompany what society was already going through. A big change that was happening, and I think that Lucha Libre is maybe the vanguard in this as a sport, because it is a very high skilled sport. It is incredibly difficult. I'm gonna go into the training a little bit because it's really, really tough, but I think they managed to do that because half of what they do is a spectacle, is performers. So, as actors, we explore our transgender all the time, and we're playing with it, and so the like the easy definitions don't fit what we do, in a sense, it's like, and it is a complex thing, and the wrestlers get that as well. Actually, some wrestlers get a kind of a liberation when they're able to get an Exotico character. If I would be a wrestler, I would get an Exotico character. I would choose to play an Exotico character because it's so much more fun. It's so much more fun. It's you can get away with many more things. You can play around. You can do many more things than as a kind of a rudo, which I'm not. I don't think I'm a rudo. Maybe a technician I am. Los técnicos. But not so much, but definitely an Exotico. Yeah, I would play an Exotico.
It looks a lot more fun. Absolutely, a lot more fun.
Yes, those dresses, like, it's fun.
I just wanted to ask what it was like to work with Saul in telling his story. He's very much around. He's only in his early 50s. He's very happy and healthy, and so happy that you told his story from what I've read. What have you learned from him about what it means to be an artist?
Well, unfortunately, before doing the film, Saul had a health situation that kind of got him out for a little while. But we were able to meet at the end of the shooting in Ciudad Juárez. And there's actually pictures of that in the internet. You can find them. Yes, it's and it was amazing to meet him and to be with him and to talk with him about what we were doing at that point. And then throughout, he was very expectant to see what the film was gonna come out like, and he saw it in Sundance. We were there together, and he was loving it. He was he came in his full kind of Cassandro character, and he was just loving it and really, engaging with it, and then happy and thankful that we also, and I think, like all good performers, I guess he was also very happy that we made our own kind of interpretation of that as well, because obviously it is not his real life. There's plenty of aspects of his life, but it's mixed with many other things, many things that Roger put in and that he experienced and that he shared with Cassandro, but in a different kind of a different way of doing it. And so it's I think he's very happy with it. I hope
he says he is, from what I've read.
Yes, he's very
that
happy.
Must be a good feeling. So before we we just have time for a couple audience questions, but I did want to talk about your directing. You have directed about 12 different shows and 2 films. Tell me what you enjoy about directing and what kind of project do you want to do next as a director?
Oh, yes. I love directing. There's really...
What do you love about it specifically?
Yeah, I love working with actors. Yeah. That's my main... Yeah. I grew up with that, and definitely that's where I kind of feel much more at ease and kind of where I can also, from an actor's perspective, also invite other colleagues to try out things that maybe they've never tried, and also to put ourselves tasks and kind of challenges and accidents and create accidents, create something that surprises us. And it is really fun. The last film I did is this one called Chicuarotes. I think you can find it in can we say we can say no. Netflix and VIX. I think here in the United States is it
exactly.
VIX, and it's a film that is I'm really proud of the result. With all the kids that we worked and I don't know. It was really joyful. But what do I enjoy? I mean, what am I gonna do next? There's like 3 or 4 things I have an idea of, but I must say that as a director, I have a lot of fear, even more. I mean, because as an actor, I have it, but as a director, I have even more fear of saying what I haven't done, because that's going against the film gods, Like, it's like talking about what you haven't done. It's like, no. So I would gladly share it if I was already doing it, but still not. So hopefully it's going to be good. Hopefully I end up doing it.
We look forward to hearing more about that.
Thank you.
So a couple audience questions. Sophia would like to know, what have been your most valuable lessons that you've learned since you started acting? I know it's a big question, but...
Yes, but there's many. Talking about now we're talking about Cassandro. Obviously, having the ability as an actor to explore this transgender that we all have inside, that has been one of the best things that has happened to me, because it allowed me to integrate much more a kind of a complex. The complexity of personality of life in a way, and how we can all live many lives within one life, and how it is important to do that also, because Cassandra, as you can remember, I mean, it's not only a film. I mean, the character is now kind of sorting out the mythology of the father, of the absent father. And I think my generation was one of the last ones that had this kind of absent father constant, and there is something there, this kind of duality that you have to become someone else in order to find that mythology, or kind of like deconstruct that mythology, which can also be said, you have to play another character in order to find yourself. But to find yourself is, something that changes all the time, because we're always evolving. And also the life of the border as well, which always plays with a duality. You have to ignore that stupid wall that exists there. You have to ignore it all the time, because life ignores it, actually, because it's like a monument of ridiculousness of what humans can do, this kind of thing, like let's put a wall so that people don't cross, it's like life ignores that completely, and it will anyway, let's not get started with it. No, but it's such a ridiculous thing, really, because it's like the people that live in the border, they live with that open wound all the time, and one of the nicest things, and I'm sure there's many Chicanos here and Chicanas, but one of the nicest things that I've heard, I mean, when I was working there, not in Cassandra but way before, was a girl that was coming to Mexico, and she said, I mean, the thing is that it really goes to a kind of a Greek mythology kind of situation, because Mexico, so the United States is the country, is like the father that didn't recognize me, and Mexico is the mother that I never knew. And I think that is something that kind of that happens, no? That is how it is, the father doesn't recognize you, but you want to reach out to Mexico because it's the mother that you never knew, and you want to know what it is. You want to know where you're from. You want to know what this is. So it's this is also a duality that the character is playing with, that Cassandra is always constantly playing with, and it is an incredible. I'm not from the border, like I have Chicano family in Chula Vista in California, yeah. So I have some family there, but like very far away family. But it is a culture that I never grew up with, but I'm so interested in it, and there is so many stories to tell about that part of the world, because it is neither Mexico, it is neither the United States. It is a world of its own, that kind of has its own sort of shifting rules and fascination, and it's a place of coming and going as well, which is
and the places where people come and go are the best places, are the most wonderful, culturally rich places. I mean, that's what gives life, no?
Agree. One last question from Erica. Do you have any advice on breaking through the casting process, which I'm sure is a difficult, ongoing issue for everyone in this room today? Have you learned anything over the years about casting?
Yeah. Yes. So there's, for example, there is a weird notion, sort of outdated now, fortunately, hopefully, but sometimes it's used as a kind of an argument. But, there was this thing of like, you have to convince the director that you're able to play the part. Like, no, you can never convince someone. It's as if they're doing you a favor of like, hey, you convinced me. Like, no, it's like, so relax with that, like completely relax. Like, you're never going to convince a person. It's that person that's going to find something, and whether they see it or not, it's their thing. It's their responsibility. It's never your responsibility. That's what's important to know. It's like, it's always the director's responsibility, or the people that decide if they choose you or not choose you, So it's important to not carry that weight, and to feel like, okay, I'm here to see if this, if the star signs kind of come together, or So I think that's an important thing about the casting, and really, like I remember once like this was really funny because I had my first son was born, and I needed to work, and I had like I was open to try out, okay, let's do something, whatever, okay, but for this one you have to do a casting. Yes, okay, cool, yes. So let's see what the casting is, and I think I was so fully charged and so emotional, that I think I gave one of the best performances ever in the casting, like, and got on with the actress that later played the part, and wow, we got on so well, and like really, wow, like there was something, it was like stuff happening, and yeah, I came out thinking I did the best thing ever, but I think it's not what they're looking for. It's not what they're looking for, and they confirmed me like not even like a couple of hours after, like oh no, they're looking for something else. Yes, of course they're looking for something else.
You enjoyed the performance. That's all that matters.
I enjoyed. I don't know. Yes, I enjoyed, but I think I gave one of the best performances ever. Like I was just really, I mean, of me, performances of me. But that's the thing, that also like when your son is born or your daughter is born or whatever, all of a sudden life changes, of course. And I there was always this joke of like, I feel a better actor, but I feel maybe I'm not, maybe I'm worse, maybe I'm like, but I just feel better, so maybe I did something that, it was just not the right thing to do. So in that sense, thank you for the director not to choose me, because they were right. They were looking for something else, and I would have suffered so much because I was really doing, like something.
You had another vision.
I had another vision, yeah.
So before we let you go, and just want to let everyone know, let's allow him to have a seamless exit off the stage. We know we want to mob him with our love, but let's let him leave. But there's a moment in, trust me, it can get wild in here. There's a moment at the beginning of Cassandra where he's watching some of the luchadors, and he's sort of kind of like, this isn't that interesting. And he says, there's no poetry. And that makes me think of you, and you have brought poetry to every single thing that you've ever done. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you. It's true. It's true. Thank you. It's true. It's true. Thank you for being here. You've been an amazing audience. Thank you so much.